photosynthesis is converting sunlight into food. So plants, they take sunlight, they break it, they use that as energy, and we're gonna look at the process today in detail, and they convert it into food. Some other organisms like some protista, amoeba, euglena, they can also do photosynthesis. So it's not only plants, some of the other organisms can do photosynthesis as well. The ingredients that we need for photosynthesis is sunlight, carbon dioxide, we breathe that out, and water that plants get from their roots that has minerals in it. So that's what you need for photosynthesis. So this equation here, you've seen this before briefly last time. This is the equation for photosynthesis. We said you need carbon dioxide that we've been breathing out, and then water the plants get from their roots, light energy from the sun, and this is what they produce: glucose and oxygen as a byproduct. This is the formula for glucose. You need to know this. There will be a question on the exam where I ask you the equation for photosynthesis, and then I ask you the chemical formula for glucose. So commit this to your memory, take a screenshot, write it in your notes. This is how much chemistry you have to know. This is the equation that you have to know. This is the photosynthesis equation. Where does this take place? When we talked about the organelles, we looked at an organelle called chloroplast. So chloroplast is where this is happening. This is where plants are taking carbon dioxide and water and using light energy to power up their photosynthesis system, and then producing sugar and oxygen as a byproduct. So it's happening in the chloroplast. A question, so being able to carry out photosynthesis is evolutionary advantage for organisms because it allows them to do what? So what is the answer? Everybody's saying E. Now, A is true. They do produce oxygen as a byproduct. B is true. They make their own food through this process. C is not true. Plants, they are not selfless. They're not making food for other, other animals to eat. So they're making the food for themselves. Even when there's no sun at night, they store that sugar so they can use it later. So this is not true. So it can be all of the above. So mainly it's to make their own food. The way evolution solved this problem is through photosynthesis, so they can make their own food. So the answer would be B here. Fruits and nectars, Chris said, that is true, and that's for pollination. So when we get to that, it's defined as a mutualistic relationship. So if they're producing nectar for birds, they want the birds or the bees to do the pollination. So they're trying to attract pollinators by doing that. So without photosynthesis, neither the plants nor the animals in this image would survive. So plants, they do photosynthesis. They take sunlight, they convert it into food, glucose here. And then these animals came around and started eating the plants. And that's how they get their energy. But they do it through the process called cellular respiration. Plants are doing photosynthesis, and then the animals that are eating that food are doing cellular respiration. Now, sometimes students get confused thinking the plants only do photosynthesis. Plants do both. They do photosynthesis and they do cellular respiration. They do both. They use sunlight to make ATP, then they use that ATP to make sugars. So that's cellular respiration. So if you were to take this equation and write it backwards, that's cellular respiration equation. You have glucose and oxygen and if you just write it this way, and that's the cell respiration, which is next chapter. We can look at that as well. So this is just to, give you an overview of that. Photosynthesis is essential to sustaining life on Earth. So when the planet Earth formed, there was no oxygen there, and cyanobacteria came around, and it started producing oxygen as a byproduct. So that's when first mass extinction happened, because the organisms that were around before oxygen came around didn't use oxygen, and oxygen was very harmful to them. And then they went extinct, and then we came around, we used oxygen. So it's essential for life on Earth. We use oxygen, and oxygen is the byproduct of photosynthesis.